How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Higgs, and today we are going to be discussing Dragon Age The Veilguard. So by now we all know about the reviews of what was said, the good, but the bad and everything in between. For me, the super positive reviews were just off and sometimes pretty shameless, especially when it came to the inclusivity and diversity side of the game, as I thought the reviews were celebrating that more than what the actual game brought to the table. So I went and purchased the game and thought I'd find out for myself. Now, everyone has had eyes on BioWare ever since that failed attempt to break into the live service genre with Anthem, which ended pretty quickly after a horrible launch followed by a very hollow endgame. Fast forward a few years and 10 years since Dragon Age Inquisition, gamers were wondering, do BioWare still have it? The short answer, in my opinion, is I'm not too sure, because the BioWare of a few years back seems like a different one that's around today. Dragon Age The Veilguard had me so conflicted because I did enjoy the gameplay and certain characters as well, but the underlying agenda and ideals that were thrusted onto us spoiled it for me. Which is a shame, because if certain people at BioWare didn't try and push their own personal thoughts onto the player, Dragon Age The Veilguard would have been a much better game. So to start us off, we play as Rook, the game's main character, and you are tasked with defending Thedas and tracking down and defeating two demons, Elganan and Gillenane, who are Evanurus' leaders. These two demons escaped when Solus was attempting a ritual to tear down the veil surrounding the world so he could bring back what has been lost. Once the opening sequence has finished though, the fun really begins. And to start us off, we have the character customization section. And I was surprised the most with this, because most reviews were saying how wonderful it is that Dragon Age The Veilguard was so inclusive, when in fact it isn't. You can customise your character to your heart's content, whether you want a male, female or non-binary, and you can even have transition scars from surgery, but one thing you can't choose is to have no pronouns. If you don't use them in real life, well, you are forced to use them here, and for such an inclusive and diversified game, I find that disappointing. Because the game clearly doesn't want to be diverse and inclusive, it wants to follow a set narrative and ideology. Apart from that, players have created some really good characters, as it's that in depth. For me, it's not that important. As long as I can choose a beard, I'm pretty happy. And then we have the writing, and wow, it's pretty fucking bad. Rook never actually says what you select, because in Dragon Age The Veilguard, we can't hurt feelings, and we're on a journey which involves no disagreements or real emotions like stress, anger and anxiety. The kind of emotions that you'd expect, because we have these two demons trying to curse everyone and take over the world. But the game tries hard in every aspect to follow a certain narrative that the world is all about inclusivity and positive feelings. And this is where my main gripe is, the constant in-your-face narrative from the devs pushing out their message. I mean, the characters themselves were not bad, the voice actors did a good job considering the bad writing, but no one ever really challenges you, and after a while you are just selecting things to say for the sake of it. Although I would like to add, Luca, who is an assassin, was one of the better characters. He showed some emotion and personality and was fun to use when in combat. And Emmerich, the necromancer, who clearly attended the school for manners, he's extremely polite and welcoming, along with being useful, and brings a chirpy butler with him, Manfred the Skeleton. And these characters add a bit of flair to what can be a really bland cast at times. I'd also like to give a mention to Davrin as well, who was an elf and Grey Warden. He is bold and charming and also has a pet griffin, Asan. Davrin and Emmerich were the two characters I used the most, as their dialogue was quite funny and witty, and that's what I like in a video game. I want to have fun, I want to be able to laugh at certain things, just switch my brain off and just play a game and just get myself immersed in the world. But what frustrates me is you can see glimpses of the characters wanting to do more and take risks, but the writers, for reasons we have figured out, just couldn't or wouldn't let the handbrake off. And that is a shame, because this game clearly does have a certain charm about it. One thing the characters all have in common though is the bad facial animations. They honestly look like they have just done a couple of rounds of Botox, if I'm being honest. Their mouths just really don't move much at all. I thought they could have probably done a bit better with that. Performance wise, I can't complain at all. I was running Dragon Age Veilguard on a 3080 GPU, and it ran smooth the whole time I played. I had no issues at all. I've spoken with console players and they report the performance is really good as well. So I'm happy bioware optimised the game extremely well, and I will say this, the game is gorgeous. It has a really detailed world with each place you visit having a unique feeling to it. BioWare, in my opinion, did capture the Dragon Age vibe extremely well. I know there was a lot said about how the character designs looked, and at first I thought it was all a bit too weird looking as well. But after a while you do get used to it, and BioWare clearly had a vision of how they wanted characters to look, and they stuck with it. Playing the actual game for myself, I quickly realised the design isn't that bad. The characters look smooth and more polished. I do think the main gripe is that the art style looks too different from previous Dragon Age games. I know a lot's been said about the combat in Dragon Age, but to my surprise, I found it fun. Is it highly in depth? Not at all, but it doesn't need to be. You can easily select what you want your companions to do on the fly, and Rook's combat is nice and smooth with some nice upgrades available as well. For me, it was just enough. If you're a player that wants in-depth combat, you probably won't like what Dragon Age The Veilguard has to offer. The skill tree is a bit underwhelming, as I found there wasn't much there that stood out to me personally, and I know that might sound contradictory, but I'm solely speaking about the combat here. The combat was really fluid. It is just your typical skill tree where you select some nodes that upgrade things like stagger, critical hit damage, health, along with elemental damage, and then you finally select what type of fighting style you want. It was more of the same really when it comes to that. And then we're going to move on to the story, and in isolation it was put together pretty well, with Solus opening up a hole in the Veilguard, letting the two demon gods Gillenane and Elganan out to run right throughout Thedas, corrupting everything and anything with blight, which made for a good base to grow the story from. It is more linear than the previous games in the series, but that didn't bother me too much, as I do enjoy a bit of structure. But BioWare did a good job of balancing that alongside letting the player feel they do have a certain amount of freedom. I also enjoyed the side missions, as well as fighting the champions, which was a lot of fun, but I was always finding myself conflicted because some moments were great and had a bit of tension, and others felt like we were all in a therapy session, which isn't what you want in a video game. Let's take this cutscene here, where Rook walks in on Neve and Tash.
Fancy mage clothes.
Because I like them?
You're barely even wearing a shirt.
You fight Anton with a bare midriff.
Everything all right?
We're fine. Just trading fashion tips. So what I wear is a problem for you?
It's not. It's just... why dress like that? Are you trying to make your mother happy?
I don't know what your problem is here, Tosh, but you're out of line.
Relax, Rook. I'm a big girl. Tosh, you mentioned me trying to make my mother happy. What's that have to do with how I dress?
It's just something my mother said the other day. That I act more like a man than a woman.
And you feel like you should wear dresses to make her happy?
No. Can you imagine me in a dress? I'd look stupider than I'd look stupid.
You wouldn't look stupid in a dress, if that's what you wanted to wear.
I don't want to wear a fucking dress!
Clear and to the point. So, what do you want? Your mother didn't just make you angry. Something she said got its hooks into you. Why?
It feels... right. When she says I act more like a man. It feels... right. Why does it feel right?
Tosh, do you like being a woman?
Nobody likes being a woman.
Ah.
This is stupid. Forget I said anything.
Forget it or dig into it, whatever you have to do. But if our dragon hunter isn't at her best, people will die.
Yeah, I'll figure out my crap. Whatever it is.
Some of my friends in Minrathous talk about not feeling comfortable in their own skin. As a man, as a woman. I could see if they'd like to talk. Maybe what they say fits how you're feeling.
Yeah. Okay. And thanks. You do look really pretty.
Oh?
To look at. I'd smudge your makeup.
Thanks for letting me down gently.
And this one, in my opinion, which is even worse.
So, Tash pries the enormous ruby out of the statue's eye socket. Except then it wakes up, and now it's real pissed that it's missing an eye. Oh, my.
What kind of statue was this?
Big snake.
Like the size of a horse?
30 feet tall. Had the size of a wagon. How'd you get up there? They carved the scales. Made okay handholds.
And now we've got a giant, angry, one-eyed snake statue trying to swallow Tash whole.
Wait, how does that work? Where would they go? Did it have a stomach?
Wait for it.
Best part is, while Tash is pounding that snake's nose, she's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's panties, I was so proud.
Oh,
Ah, shit. They're still holding it, sorry.
What are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Oh. Okay.
a barv?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune, from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crew's not good for morale, but there's not always time for big, drawn-out apologies. So, when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a Barv. Ah, there we go.
Any reason you can't just apologize?
Sometimes people say, oops, sorry, and hope that fixes it. But they just want to get the whole thing over with. Trust me, I know. But pulling a barv, you sweat a little. Makes you think about it a little more. Shows the other person you mean it.
What if they mean it when they say they're sorry, though?
And that's the other reason. Some people mess up and get all dramatic. They make it about them. Oh, you know, I didn't mean it right. I'd never do that on purpose. They feel so bad about it that it's on everyone else to smooth it over and make them feel better.
Oh, okay. Yes, some people might do that.
Pulling a barv puts it on the person who screwed up. They made the mess, they fix it, done.
I'm glad the Lords of Fortune have Tarsh's back.
Oh, Tarsh isn't the first non-binary member of the Lords.
Really?
It was a little before your time, but Horlicks was one of ours.
Huh.
Bastard looked better than I did in a dress or pants. And out of them too.
So you either learn to make fewer mistakes, or you get gigantic muscles.
Or both. I didn't expect the Lords to care about the stuff. Me being non-binary.
Kirkwall taught me about family. If it matters to you, it matters to me. I mean, to the, Lords.
Oh. Thanks.
Anyway, where was I? So, there Tash is, thigh-deep in a snake's maw and still holding the giant ruby in one hand. I yelled that we'll get them out of there, and Tash just yells back, "Get up its ass! I'll meet you in the middle!"
Okay, the stomach I get, but did it really have?
Hey, who ate the last breaded cheese wand?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I guess I thought, well, I don't know what.
It's fine.
No, they're your favorite.
Lara, I know you're sorry, but you did mess up.
I know.
And what do we do when we mess up?
Yes, you're right. I'm pulling a barv. 1, 2, 3.
Heart's in the right place. Form's a little sloppy, though.
Bend your knees.
And this is what turns me off. Why do we need to have this shit in a video game? From what I understand, some of the devs are non-binary and therefore we had to have this pushed on us in the game. I, like many, do not care what you want to identify as. If you're happy and not hurting anyone, that is good enough for me. But when you push it on people, that's when folks get frustrated. Have your thoughts and ideals, but leave them out of video games. If a character is non-binary and uses pronouns, why does it need to be highlighted and quite frankly feel like we're in a lesson being taught about this stuff? It's clear that certain people at bioware wanted to force this upon us, and it did nothing other than frustrate people. There are times and places to have these discussions, and a video game isn't one of them. Obviously, in an RPG, story is extremely important, which is why I've highlighted these aspects, because it does spoil it. Is Dragon Age The Veilguard a bad game? Not at all. It has some good story beats with a solid combat system which does what it needs to do in the game. Certain characters have been voiced well, although quite often they were let down by the writing. The side missions are a nice extraction along with fighting champions, but the game never really pulls away from the message certain people have tried delivering, which is a shame because Dragon Age The Veilguard could have been in contention for Game of the Year if the devs concentrated on delivering a solely fun experience and not be lecturing us about gender politics. We want escapism when we play a video game, not something that reminds us all of the crap going on in the world. If you can get past all of that, then I'd recommend getting it when it's on sale, but if politics is a big no-no to you, I'd maybe sit this one out. But guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, hit that thumbs up button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button as well for more videos. But until next time guys, take care and I'll see you on the next video.